All right, let's jump straight into this explainer because we really need to talk about something crazy happening in the tech world right now. Ask yourself honestly, are you experiencing what we call AI psychosis? It's that dizzying, slightly terrifying, lightheaded realization that the fundamental rules of software development have just completely changed overnight. I mean, we are standing smack in the middle of a massive paradigm shift, and the ground is moving fast under our feet.
Now, if you're sitting there thinking, no, I feel perfectly fine, nothing's changed, well, just wait. By the end of this explainer, I promise you're going to feel it. When you really step back and look at how unbelievably fast artificial intelligence is advancing right now, it forces us to question literally everything we thought we knew about building products. The way we've been working for the last decade, suddenly totally up for debate. Stuff we have at our fingertips today was basically science fiction just a year ago.
I mean, look at the timeline of these capabilities. It is moving at absolute breakneck speed. Think back, actually, it wasn't even that long ago, to the Sonus 3.5 days. That was what we'd call the tool call era. It was a huge leap because, for the first time, an AI could consistently execute end-to-end tasks right inside the context of a codebase. Mind-blowing at the time, right? But then Opus 4.5 hits, and boom, we are in the long-running task era. The model isn't just taking one step and waiting for you, it's testing its own work, fixing it, and doing hours of work in minutes. And today, we are looking at advanced agents like Mythos ushering in the orchestration era. This isn't just about writing code anymore. It's about a model that understands itself, spawns its own submodels, and delegates work to verify later. You don't even need a complex software factory anymore. You just prompt it to keep going. So here is the harsh, unavoidable truth. The models are getting better, faster than we are. We simply cannot outlearn them anymore. The day-to-day grind of knocking out standard Jira tickets, yeah, that's basically a solved problem now. So what on earth do we do? If we can't be better in the traditional sense of typing boiler code faster than a machine, our only survival strategy is to go bigger. We have to drastically, almost uncomfortably, expand the scope of what we build. But to do that, we kind of have to get over ourselves first. Okay, let's do a quick throwback to make sense of this. Remember the shift from Apple's iOS 6 to iOS 7? Back in the iOS 6 days, everything was skeuomorphic. A compass app literally looked like a stitched leather physical compass. Why? Because they had to convince people that this glowing digital rectangle could actually replace a real physical tool. But by iOS 7, Apple realized, hey, we won. Everyone knew what an iPhone was, so they dropped the fake leather, stopped trying to mimic the physical world, and embraced pure, flat digital utility. People definitely complained at first, but it was infinitely more useful. So why are we talking about old iPhones? Because right now, software engineers are stuck in our very own iOS 6 phase. We are deeply infected with what we can call developer skeuomorphism. We cling to these purely text-based interfaces, like the terminal, GNU screen, SSH, or Vim. And let's be honest, we don't hold on to them because they are objectively the best way to interact with an AI-driven system. We hold on to them because they're familiar. It feels like a real workbench. But they are legacy tools, and we're just clinging to the aesthetic of old-school coding. I mean, take a step back and really look at the ridiculous constraints we just accept. Why is it so painfully hard to share environment files with our engineering teams without building some completely separate, convoluted system? Every other file goes into Git just fine. The truth? It's literally just because that's how Git was built, for a very specific use case, decades ago. But because Git absolutely dominated our industry, it essentially took over our brains. We stopped asking, is this actually the right way to do things? And just accepted it as the only way. And oh man, it gets even sillier when we look at how we label ourselves. You hear it all the time. Oh, he writes JavaScript, he's not a real developer. We qualify our entire professional identity by the syntax of the programming languages we memorized. It's the ultimate sunk cost fallacy. We take so much pride in these weird, arbitrary choices because finding good engineers used to be incredibly hard, so those labels meant something. Today, it is completely irrelevant. An AI bridges that syntax gap in about 2 seconds. And speaking of letting go, why on earth are we so terrified of deleting code? Seriously, how many times have you looked at a feature and known the absolute best move was to just trash it and start over, but you didn't? We suffer from such intense sunk cost guilt. We'll guilt merge a terrible pull request just because a teammate spent the week sweating over it. But here's the kicker. Shutting down an AI agent's work carries absolutely zero guilt. You literally just hit delete and tell it to try again. We are emotionally attached to things that simply do not matter anymore. Okay, so when you combine all of this, it literally shifts the entire business landscape. Because AI models are so insanely capable now, the traditional tiers of software development have shifted down an entire level. Think about it. What used to require a heavily funded, venture-backed startup team just 2 years ago, you can basically do that as a weekend side project now. The baseline capabilities have exploded. But if a startup is now a side project, what happens to the old side projects? Which drops us into this wild new territory we're calling the G-Rain tier. I know, it sounds like a joke, but it is a staggering reality check. Right now, as we speak, there are actual products, services, and whole companies whose entire operational brains exist as a single markdown file. No massive codebase. You just pipe a plain text markdown file into a model like Claude or Codex, and it handles complex logic perfectly. It's completely unbelievable, and frankly, most of the industry hasn't even begun to digest how insane this really is. To put that into perspective, think about a modern, automated PR triage service. In the past, that would have been a beast. You'd need a backend, databases, CI/CD pipelines, the whole shebang. Now, it's just 3 steps. Step 1, read the open PRs on GitHub. Step 2, let the AI review and prioritize the work. Step 3, generate a static HTML file and toss it onto Amazon S3. That entire service can run every morning at 9 a.m. on a simple cron job, driven completely by the plain English instructions in one markdown file. Which brings us to a wildly exciting, maybe slightly terrifying question. If a startup is now a side project, and a side project is literally just a text file, what on earth fills that massive empty gap at the top tier? What does too big even mean anymore? Is it training a custom operating system from absolute scratch? Is it building a direct competitor to something massive like NPM? We honestly have no idea where the ceiling is right now, and that means we have a mandate. We absolutely have to push ourselves to build aggressively larger systems just to find out. To figure that out, we have to completely change our strategic shape. The classic startup playbook was always go narrow and deep. Take Vercel, right? They focused incredibly deeply on front-end serverless deployments because, as a small startup, they could never, ever compete with the sheer width of AWS. You had to go narrow because your resources were limited. But AI completely flips the script. Today, building extremely wide right from day one is totally viable in a way it literally never was before. So how does that wide approach actually work in practice? Well, with enough clever prompting, you can integrate entire database platforms into your product in a matter of days. You don't need an army of 1,000 engineers to spin up a massive spectrum of baseline features anymore. And here's the real magic. If you architect your system to be super wide and flexible, you don't even have to build the deep, niche features for every specific user. Why? Because the users can just bring their own AI agents to build out exactly what they need directly on top of your platform. But, and this is an absolutely crucial but, to make that work, your platform has to be the exact right shape for these agents. Look at Slack. Slack accidentally became one of the most powerful hubs for AI agents in the world. It wasn't explicitly built for that on day one, but it had the perfect shape. Its API allowed users and eventually agents to easily pipe data in and out and create these dynamic workflows. Your underlying architecture literally has to be designed to empower these agents to just plug in and go to town. So we'll wrap up this explainer with a question that really should keep you up at night. If AI lets you instantly deploy a massive, wide spectrum of features, and if AI agents can just dynamically build out all the missing vertical depth for your users on demand, what is actually stopping you from challenging the absolute giants? Seriously, what's stopping you from taking on Slack or AWS or even Salesforce? It is time to drop the developer skeuomorphism, shed all that legacy guilt, and start building at a scale that matches the insane power we now hold. The tools are absolutely ready. The only question is, are you?